Elly here from Thankful Flow Yoga. Thank you for joining me for another power flow. And today we will be working into a sequence at the end that will include shoulder stand, a plow pose, ear pressure pose. But before that, we'll be warming up the body, working into some sun salutations and some different poses. So do have your blocks and props to hand. I definitely recommend having a block today. If you don't have a block, grab a thick book or something similar, and then we will meet in our comfortable seated position on the mat. So I'm in a cross-leg position. You can bring the legs out in front if you prefer, and we're going to close off the eyes. And you can bring the hands to heart center, one hand over the other. And we'll start with grounding into the body. So let your shoulder blades run down your back. Let the sitting bones sink down into the earth. Soften the muscles in your face. As you inhale through the nose, being aware of where your breath travels to within your body, seeing how the breath feels today. There's no right or wrong. And we'll start to open the eyes now, just taking a steady gaze out in front. You can release the hands from the chest. Take a shoulder roll here. And then we're going to interlace the fingers and bring the hands behind the back of the head, elbows coming out to the side. Inhale, opening across the chest. As you exhale, drop the chin down towards the chest, draw the elbows in round the spine, draw your belly button in towards the spine. Breathing here. Tucking the tailbone in. Inhale, lift the gaze, shine the heart forward, open across the chest, elbows come back out to the side. Exhale, drop the head round the spine, draw the elbows in, draw the belly in. And last one, inhale, making space, open the elbows out to the side. Exhale, drop the head, draw the elbows in, round the spine. Inhale back to neutral, release the hands, let the arms drop down. And we're going to come and bring the soles of the feet down to the mat, roughly hip width apart, and bring your hands out behind. You can either have the fingers pointing in or pointing out, depends what feels right for you, and leave a bit of space between the hips and the hands. On your next inhale, grounding through the hands, lift your hips away from the mat, press them up to the sky. See if you can send your gaze up to the sky as well. You can drop the head completely back here and open through the throat if that feels good too. No worries if it doesn't. Stay with the breath. This is this is our inclined plane position. This is a really nice one to do if you're sat at a desk a lot. We're really moving into the fascia, the nerves, the connective tissue in our arms and our shoulders here. We're also strengthening the back of the body, all these muscles that support our spine. Exhale, let your hips drop back down to the mat. Release the arms, take a little shake out. This is a nice one to do energetically, releasing any energy that's not serving you, anything you want to let go of. Might feel silly if you're not used to it, but once you get used to it, you may learn to love it like me. Okay, great. And now from here, we're going to lift the feet away from the mat. Find Navasana, boat pose, hands reaching out in front. Keep that lovely space across the chest. If you're finding you're rounding here, roll the shoulders back. Breathing here. And then start to lower the legs down to the mat so they're lengthened, coming out in front. And we're going to start to come into a sequence, moving from inclined plane into Navasana and back. So for your inclined plane, you're either going to do the lengthened leg version, or you can do the version we just did to modify, which is having the legs bent, okay? So we'll start with inhale, lift the hips to the sky. Send the gaze in that direction as well. Breathing here. Exhale, drop the hips down. Can you bend the legs, bring them in, find Navasana. Start to move away. See if you can do it with control, lengthening the legs down, bringing the hands down. Inhale, lift the hips back up to the sky, inclined plane. Exhale, hips come back down to the ground. Come back into your Navasana boat pose. And we'll do last time in each pose in a moment. Just remember, you can take a pause at any time if you need to. Now see if you can float those legs down with control, really activating the core. Ground through the hands. Inhale, lift the hips away from the mat. Stay with your breath. Make sure you keep breathing. Exhale, bring the hips back down to the mat. Bring the legs back in, find your boat pose. Space across the chest. And then from here, either seeing if you can do it without the hands, or you can bring the hands to the backs of the thighs. We're going to find a little bit of momentum and see if we can rock up to standing. So keeping this really nice engagement through the core, rocking back, and coming up to Tadasana, mountain pose, reaching the crown of the head to the ceiling. Exhale, bring your hands through to heart center. No worries if you're rolling all over the place right now, just come and meet back in a standing position at the top of the mat. Start to ground the feet into the mat and notice how the floor feels beneath your feet. How do your foundations feel today? Do they feel stable, rocky? No judgment on this. It's nice and interesting to observe. Inhale, sweep the fingertips back up to the sky. Lift your ribs away from your hips. Exhale, hinge from the hips, forward fold. Bend the legs as much as you need to. Inhale, lift the chest, lengthen the spine. Find your halfway lift. Exhale, bring the hands down to the mat. Step or jump the feet back. Work through your chaturanga. So I'll do the modified version to start with. Exhale, drop the knees down to the mat. Lower the rest of the body down. Inhale, roll the shoulders back. Peel your chest away from the mat, cobra. Press the tops of the feet to the mat. Activate the legs. Exhale, release your chest back down to the ground. And start to ground into the hands on your exhale. Hips come to the sky, the downward facing dog. Reaching the hips away from the ribs. Arms are squeezing in towards the ears, strong arms, fingers nice and spread, pressing into the thumbs and the first finger. This is the strongest part of your hand. Breathing in and out through the nose, reconnect with your breath. Perhaps finding your Ujjayi breath, that's something that you work with in your practice. Inhale, step or jump the feet in towards the hands, lift the chest, lengthen the spine, find your halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep the fingertips up to the sky, grow the spine tall. Exhale, hands come down to heart center. Inhale, fingertips reach up to the sky, lift the ribs away from the hips. Exhale, hinge from the hips, forward fold. Inhale, lift the chest, lengthen the spine, halfway lift. Exhale, bring the hands down to the mat, step or jump back to plank. Move through your version of Chaturanga, so whatever's in your practice, so either inhaling into upward facing dog or cobra, and exhaling into your downward facing dog. Remember, you can always take a child's pose if you need to, listening to the body, taking what you need from this practice, taking what's going to serve you today from this practice. So keep your downward facing dog active. Hips coming to the sky. The legs don't have to be straight. They can be bent if they need to be. Inhale, send the gaze between the hands, step or jump the feet in, lift the chest, lengthen the spine, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep the fingertips up to the sky, grow the spine tall. Exhale, float the hands through to heart center. You might like to step the feet in slightly closer together here. See what feels right for you. Inhale, sit the hips back, Utkatasana. Belly's coming away from the thighs. Legs are squeezing in together. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift the chest, lengthen the spine, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come down to the mat, step or jump the feet back and move through your Chaturanga. Inhaling into upward facing dog or cobra. And exhaling back to your downward facing dog. From here, we're going to lift this right foot away from the mat. Sweep the right foot up to the sky, finding your three-legged dog. Opening into the hips, stay strong through the shoulders. Sweep the right foot through, step that right foot between the hands. Sweep the arms up to the sky, lift it up and out from the pelvis. Breathing here. Now start to draw that left heel down to the mat. Open out to your warrior two. Lengthen through the right leg. And we'll start to reach forwards, forwards, forwards with the right fingertips. And then tipping from the waist, coming into your Trikonasana. Left hand's coming up to the ceiling, following with the gaze. Keep pressing the feet down and away into the mat. Imagine that you're shooting energy through these left fingertips. The left shoulder is stretching up towards the ceiling. The right shoulder is stretching down towards the mat. Inhale, float back to your warrior two. And now step this left foot in. Both legs are lengthened. And this is where you might like to grab a block and bring the block to the outside of your right foot. And we're going to float and come into our reverse triangle. So this left hand is coming to the block, the right hand's reaching up to the sky, breathing here. Option to bring the left hand down to the mat if that's in your practice, if that feels good too. And then from here, keeping this right foot planted into the mat, bring your left hand forwards. Again, it could be on a block or the mat. Lift that left leg away. Right arm still reaching up to the sky for your reverse moon. Staying with the breath. Breathing into any wobbles and shakes. Release the right hand back down to the mat. So both hands are grounded. Step the feet back, find your plank position. Well done. And Vinyasa. Inhaling into upward facing dog or cobra. And exhaling, coming back to your downward facing dog. Reconnecting with your breath. Pressing the mat away from you with your hands. Checking in with the body, how it's feeling, any sensations, anything that's coming up for you. Now we'll come onto the other side. So inhale, sweep the left leg up to the sky. Finding your three-legged dog, shoulders staying strong, opening through the hips. Bring the left foot through between the hands, sweep the fingertips up to the sky, lifting up and out from the waist. Start to bring your right heel down to the mat, open out, find your warrior two. Relax the shoulders, gaze comes over the left fingertips. Start to lengthen through the left leg and reach forward with the left fingertips. Forwards, forwards, forwards. Then tipping from the waist, finding your Trikonasana. Breathing here. Pressing the feet down and away into the mat. Sending the gaze up to the ceiling. And inhale, come back up to your warrior two. Step your right foot in. Right foot is at a slight angle. This is where you might like to grab your block and put it to the outside of the left foot. Sweeping the arms around. So this right hand's coming to the outside of the left foot or to the block. Left hand's reaching up to the sky. Breathing into those wobbles and shakes. And then we're going to start to keep some weight into this left leg. Reach that right hand forwards. Again, could be on the floor, could be on a block. Can you lift your right leg away? And the left arm's reaching up towards the sky for our revolved half moon. Breathing here. Well done. Float both hands back down to the mat. Step the feet back and vinyasa your way through. Inhaling into upward facing dog or cobra. And exhaling back to downward facing dog. Ooh, feeling that heat. Feeling the fire in the body. Reconnecting with your breath. Inhale, send the gaze between the hands. Step or jump the feet in. Lift the chest and lengthen the spine. Find your halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sit the hips back, Utkatasana. Belly's coming away from the thighs, squeezing everything in, drawing up energy from the ground into the legs. Exhale, release. Coming back to Tadasana, hands to heart center. And take a couple of breaths here. You can close down the eyes if you wish to, keeping the hands in Anjali Mudra, this prayer position. Take a moment to observe. Opening the eyes back up now if you had them closed. Bring the hands out in front, come up on the toes, and then start to bend through the legs. I'm going to lower the hips down towards the mat, but try and come down slowly with as much control as you can. And then once you're there, bring the hips down to the mat. Lifting the legs away, can you find your Navasana boat pose again here? Keeping that space across the chest. You can bring the hands behind the thighs if you need to. And then keeping that activation through the core, start to see if you can lengthen through the legs, lower the spine down towards the mat, and release the legs, release the head down. Coming into a lying position, just let everything become soft for a moment here. Grounding into this space. And then start to bend through the legs and plant the soles of the feet into the mat. And lengthen the arms, and to give you a rough idea, the tips of your fingertips should be just about touching the heels. And from here, we're going to draw the pelvis up and in towards the body. Notice your lumbar spine, your lower back connecting closely to the mat. Keeping in this activation, start to lift your hips away from the mat. Hips reaching up towards the ceiling, coming into your bridge pose. Keep the head and the neck completely straight, chin tucked down towards the chest, and listening to my voice here rather than moving the head to try and see me. Keep everything nice and straight and let my voice guide you. So from here, you're either going to take a restorative bridge or legs up the wall pose. So you can bring your block and pop it under the sacrum. You can then move into your legs up the wall pose or your restorative bridge pose, or you're going to come into a shoulder stand sequence with plow and ear pressure pose with me. So completely up to you. Take the option that feels right for you. From your bridge, see if you can wiggle your hands so that they're underneath the hips, and bring the legs up to the sky into your shoulder stand from here. So notice if you can see the belly moving around with your breath in your shoulder stand. And then from here, moving into your plow pose. So we're going to take the legs down to the ground behind. Now this doesn't work for you. You could of course have a chair behind you, have something higher up to put the legs on, or you take a different option. So feet meeting the ground, coming into your plow pose. So we're closing the throat here. So this pose is very associated to Vishuddha, the throat chakra, this energy center. We're also practicing pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. So where the body is really curling in on itself, we are really sending our gaze inwards. And then option from here to start to bend through the legs, finding your ear pressure pose. So what we're doing is we're guiding the knees towards the ears and hugging them in. Again, keep listening to your body, taking what feels right for you. Don't force anything. This is a strong flexion of the spine. Just being mindful, be careful with the body. And then starting to slowly move away from your ear pressure pose. You can bring the hands back to the spine to support you, lifting the legs back up through shoulder stand. Nice to come out of the pose how you came in if you can. So maybe you're using the hands to support you, bringing the legs back down to your bridge. And then with control, lowering the hips back down to the mat. If you came into a different option here, starting to release from that option. And we're going to come into our fish pose now. So bringing the hands so that they're underneath the hips, so tops of the wrists underneath the hips. Lengthening the legs. And then pressing the forearms into the mat, puffing up through the chest and dropping the head back. We're not putting pressure into the head here. The pressure is actually going into the forearms. So being really mindful that you're not dumping a lot of pressure into the head. The head should be able to be lifted away from the mat. So really pressing the forearms down into the ground. So this is our counter pose to the movement that we've just done. Release from your fish pose, let everything melt back down to the mat. Come into a comfortable lying position. Close off the eyes if that feels good too. And allow the body to sink into the ground. Let the hips and the shoulders melt into the earth beneath you. Relax all the muscles in your face. Relax the jaw. And return to your breathing. Inhaling and exhaling. And the breath is really our access point. It's our gateway to the nervous system. And the nervous system controls so many things within our body, our hormones, it controls whether our body's in balance or not. So connecting to our breath is such a powerful tool. It's a powerful practice. Every time that you're listening to your breathing or noticing something about your breath, not necessarily always controlling the breath, being the observer of the breath, just know that that is a great place to be. Now, if you have longer to stay in a Shavasana or do a meditation, then I definitely recommend that you do so. If you are ready to come out of the practice, I want you to roll over to one side of your mat and pause there, keeping the eyes closed or the gaze soft. And take a few breaths here to one side, let the practice absorb. And then from here, feel the body back up to your seated position on the mat, coming full circle to where we started the practice. Bring the hands back to your heart center. Opening up the eyes when you're ready. Thank you for joining me for this practice. In the description below, there's more details to what I offer and sort of live classes or my on-demand yoga membership, where there's a lot longer practice, more in-depth information about the chakras and elements, and more kind of meditations and longer Shavasanas. So if that's of interest to you, then do have a look on there. I also offer kind of one-to-one classes and sessions to look at sort of deepening your practice or sort of different options there. So do keep in touch, let me know how you're getting on, and do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I can't wait to see you for another practice.